Chapter 6084. Walter's father collapsed, crying and cursing. "What the hell is wrong with you, Steve? We, father and son, have never provoked you. Even if you don't rescue us, you won't insist on killing us? What the hell are you trying to do?" Steve was speechless for a moment. And he couldn't tell them the truth. Say it out loud, no matter how thick-skinned you are, you can't hold it back. But just when he avoided the other person's eyes and remained silent, Charlie on the side sneered and said to the father and son, "The reason why he came to Orris Hill is to find your whereabouts under the orders of the family and take you back whether alive or dead. If you don't die, how can he go back to work? FCK." Walter's father stared at Steve with blood-red eyes and cursed angrily. "Are you still a human being, Steve? Just to complete a mere family mission, you want to kill us, father and son?" Seeing that Charlie had revealed his trump card, Steve stopped pretending and said, "Your son tried to poison the girl for his own selfish desires. Father, how dare you fucking accuse me? If you and your son hadn't done this dirty thing, how could you have ended up like this? How could I have come here to find you? DMNU, you are a beast. And you still blame others for being unsympathetic. You really deserve to die." After saying that, Steve looked at Charlie and said, "Mr. Wade, I don't want to complete the task anymore. So don't keep these two beasts, just chop them all up. Just break it into pieces and feed it to the dogs outside. I stayed in Orris Hill for a few days and then went home. When I got back, I said I couldn't find it. No one alive, no dead body." When the father and son saw Steve's evil behavior, they were even more frightened. It would be better to die than to live. If Charlie really adopted Steve's suggestion and killed them both, wouldn't they? Completely screwed? So the two of them kowtowed to Charlie, crying and begging him for his life. Charlie looked at Steve and said with a smile, "If I kill them both now, wouldn't all my investment during this time be in vain? The cells they live in and the prison food they eat are all charged. Not to mention Walter's dialysis, it's also a big expense." Steve said without thinking, "Mr. Wade, I will pay for this. I will pay 10 times 100 times, I will pay $100 million US. Walter's father said with trembling all over, "Mr. Wade, give me a chance, and let me send a message to my wife. I'll ask her to prepare $1 billion. I'm not asking you to let us go. I'm just asking you to be generous and spare our lives." Steve was furious and raised his feet. He wanted to rush up and kick him again, and cursed. "DMN it, you've learned how to raise prices by now, haven't you?" Charlie stopped him and said, "Don't be so impulsive. $1 billion is money. If you give 100 million and he gives $1 billion, wouldn't I have made another 1.1 billion? Steve was stunned and looked at Charlie. He said, "Mr. Wade, why do you want his money? Won't asking for money expose you?" Charlie smiled and said, "Isn't this simple? Steve, let me give you a trick. Make your task an impossible one. And at the same time I still have a chance to receive money. What do you think?" Steve asked in surprise, "Mr. Wade, what can I do?" Charlie said, "You see, I first asked people to put the two of them on the freighter and send them to the Middle East. After the ship passed Sri Lanka and entered the Arabian Sea, I directly asked them to take a video on the freighter with the vast sea as the background. And let them notify their family preparing $1 billion US. When the time comes, their families will pay the money directly with virtual currency. Once the money is received, I will spare their lives, but I will never let them go. As soon as the video is released, everyone knows that they are at sea and not in Orris Hill. Can't you just go home directly? And no one will think that you have failed to complete the task." Steve's eyes instantly shone with excitement. He said excitedly, "Mr. Wade, this method is great. What are we waiting for? Let's start quickly." When Walter and his son heard Charlie's words, their anxious hearts were immediately relieved. Although Charlie's idea was very bad, at least it could save the lives of the father and son. The price was just an extra $1 billion spent by the family. Now that he was like this, what did $1 billion mean? Thinking of this, Walter's father quickly asked Charlie, "Mr. Wade, are you really planning to send us to the Middle East?" Charlie smiled and said, "You have a beautiful idea. You two went to the Middle East with a boat and had a false shot and then came back here. No one would have thought that you would come back to Orus Hill. So Orus Hill will be your long-term destination in the future." When the father and son heard this, their hearts sank again. They would rather be locked up in a small courtyard in a desert in the Middle East than in a dark dog farm. They have had enough of this kind of life. But they also know very well that they have no choice at all and can only be slaughtered like animals in a slaughterhouse. Steve also breathed a sigh of relief and couldn't help but sigh. "Mr. Wade, it has to be you, Mr. Wade." To Steve, Charlie's solution was really great. By then, everyone knows that the family father and son are at sea. And Steve's presence in Orus Hill will naturally be meaningless. The mission is no longer required, so why should they talk about whether it will be completed or not? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but ask Charlie with some worry, "Mr. Wade, do you think that after their family receives the video, will they guess the approximate location and then find connections to search all the surrounding freighters?" Charlie said with a smile, "How is that possible? Let the Hogwitz family find a boat in the vast ocean. How can they do this? Not to mention that every one of my boats is escorted by the cataclysmic front. It's just a fantasy for them to go up and check."